since Yin Yarn the Sorcerer ripped Patchland into 7 pieces, you just can't go anywhere without running into these horrible... But Fluff was interrupted when they were attacked by a huge 3-eyed blob of yarn. Ew, gross, stop it!
Kirby, a beloved franchise from Nintendo that has made its way into our hearts in one way or another, whether it be for better or for worse. This pink little ball of love is by far Nintendo's cutest IP when it comes down to Nintendo mascots, and it's had some pretty adorable games to coincide with that fact. All of its titles are adorable in one way or another, though let it just be on record that I believe that this might just be his cutest. Kirby's Epic Yarn, a game developed by the folks over at Goodfeel Entertainment. Goodfeel has been known in the States for developing Wario Land Shake It, Kirby's Epic Yarn, and helping in the development of Mario & Luigi Dream Team, as well as working on their next title, Yoshi's Woolly World, a game centered around Yoshi with a style very similar to that of Kirby's Epic Yarn. But enough about that, let's get on to the game. The premise of this game is that an evil sorcerer named Yin Yarn has made its way into Dreamland in hope of conquering the land. As the game begins, we see that Kirby is sucked into an interdimensional tube sock that teleports him into a world made entirely of yarn. Here, he discovers that he's been turned into yarn and that Patchland is in disarray. After saving a boy known as Prince Fluff, he explains that Yin Yarn had torn apart Patchland by stealing the magic yarn that held Patchland together. Upon hearing the situation, Kirby decides to embark to help Prince Fluff restore Patchland back together. In return, Prince Fluff would help Kirby return to Dreamland. I'm sorry I had to. In all seriousness though, the story isn't too complex and I welcome that. Kirby is a game meant for kids, so it would only make sense to have a simplistic story so even children can follow along. The story is also presented through narration, so there shouldn't be any reason you can't follow along. For those who don't care, you can skip the cutscenes. Don't worry about it. Implying you don't care for the narrative, let's talk about the gameplay, cause you know, that's important. The game is a platformer, as you may have already guessed, though it doesn't follow all of the traditional Kirby staples, such as the fact that in this game you're no longer able to fly or eat things. That only makes too much sense since Kirby is now made of yarn. He has no real innards and shouldn't be able to eat things or inflate. Disregarding the fact that a portion of the narrative completely ignores its own rule, it makes sense. With the lack of innate functionality, Kirby is now subjected to using a whip to quite literally tear enemies apart at the seams. Get it? Seams? On top of that, he can turn enemies into balls of yarn that allow him to break through obstacles in its path and kill other enemies. Kirby is not a very nice guy given his pink fluffy appearance. Much like most Kirby games, there are transformations that are available to you, though it's very sparingly. You can only transform into these in certain locations. Some of the transformations I'm referring to are things like Dolphin, Tank, and oh my god, is that Galaga? Is it bad that this reminds me of Galaga? I mean, it's not Galaga, clearly, but it reminds me of it. These transformations aren't always present in levels, though they do help to break up the monotony of the core gameplay experience. Some of my favorite levels are the monster truck segments, where you have to get to the end of the stage, while at the same time gathering the collectibles by jumping and using speed boosts. Super fun! I really don't mind replaying this level over and over again. It's just addicting. Though I will say that some of these transformations varied in terms of fun. I enjoyed the monster truck, Galaga, and dolphin segments, though I found myself hating the digger and spaceship segments. While I will say that they're equally interesting in their own right, I just didn't enjoy how I could screw myself over on collectibles if I didn't do something correctly in certain segments. Though, I suppose I could say the same thing about the monster truck segments, but I just found those more enjoyable than the other segments, since they weren't really hidden but more or less required you to memorize a course. The best thing I can compare this to is learning the fastest route in a Sonic stage. I felt like that was necessary to talk about first before talking about the main focus of the game, which is platforming. Kirby is and shall continue to be a platformer in all forms. When you're not being a dolphin or a tank, you're going through the motions of a level specifically built for the pink fluff ball. Like I said before, he can no longer fly or eat enemies, though he can tear them apart, turn them into balls, and or squish them with a ground pound. That's about it for Kirby's moveset. Very limited, but understandable given the controller you're using the entire game, which is just the Wiimote held sideways. You move around using the directional pad, jump with the 2 button, use the whip with the 1 button, quite literally that simple. So what do you do from stage to stage? Simply making it to the end will suffice for a casual player. However, the goal of all the levels is to gather all of the collectibles and obtain enough beads to get the gold rank. If you happen to make it to the end of the stage without enough beads to achieve this gold rank, that's quite alright, as you'll still have a chance to obtain it by testing your luck with the wheel. Keep in mind that the wheel will only help if you've collected the star patches along the way, otherwise it'll be blank and will not help you in the slightest. As for the design of all the levels, I absolutely adore them. Each world in Patchland has a certain theme to it: snow, desert, fields, etc. As such, all of the levels just feel incredibly well designed. All of the environments are made entirely of yarn, and it just makes it feel much more light-hearted and creative. I honestly can't be mad at this game. I could try all I would like, though this game had some irresistible charm to it simply due to the childlike and whimsical nature to it all. Now this brings me to a common complaint I hear about this game all too often, that the game is too easy and that there isn't really a death state to speak of. I've even heard people make the argument that Kirby's Epic Yarn isn't a game due to its lack of an inherent failure state. While I can understand this complaint, here's my take on it. While this game doesn't have a death or failure state to speak of, that doesn't mean there isn't some challenge to be had. I'll give you this as an example. The game has you collecting beads, which is the way you unlock levels in later portions of the game. Most particularly the bonus levels after the boss fight, where you don't need them for completion, but are merely there to add more content into the game. Getting this gold rank at the end of each level is harder than you would think it is. While the game has no way of making you die, it does punish you by dropping your beads. Falling into a bottomless pit, it's killer for your bead count as it drops the beads you collected off the map entirely. You have no way of recollecting them, and they do not respawn. Hence, if you were close to getting a gold rank and you fall into a bottomless pit, there's a pretty good chance you will not be able to get that gold rank you wanted, unless you get lucky with a wheel. Your only hopes of amending said mistake is by restarting the level. I can understand that the lack of a death state is probably jarring for a lot of people, though as video games have progressed over the years, I don't think the failure state should have to be a part of video games as much as they used to be. I think titles like The Stanley Parable and Dear Esther have taught me that games can be diverse and interactive in many ways, where a failure state need not be present to tell a story or to lead to a fulfilling experience. I'm rambling at this point, though I do want to emphasize that just because a game is too easy or too difficult, that shouldn't devalue the title as a lesser experience due to said difficulty. Difficulty is a very questionable topic, as what may be difficult for some may not be very difficult to others. For example, I know people who are fantastic at Mega Man X. I freaking suck at it. Does that devalue the game? No, I'm sure it's a good game, I'm just bad. Right, rant over, I promise. It's also worth mentioning that the game has a co-op mode that you can play with friends, though it doesn't feel like the game is actually planned around cooperative play. The game has you both playing the same single player levels with little to no change. The only thing that really changes is the transformations, but even that is really limited. Most of the time you'll find that the game is better played alone, though it couldn't hurt to play with friends from time to time. Finally, I think it'd be a crime not to mention that you can use the collectibles you find in the levels to design Kirby's apartment. You heard me right, Kirby has an apartment and you get to design it. Here's mine, I really like it. It's better than my actual room. How fun. Kirby's Epic Yarn is a fantastic game. It has a lot to offer for both children and adults. All levels are very creative and will leave you smiling till the very end. The game has a very lighthearted feel to it and is very easy to get into. The only real complaint I have is that cooperative play is broken. It makes it feel like it was just pushed in last minute. I didn't talk about it much in this review, but the music is also some of my favorite in the Kirby franchise. I would highly recommend this game to anyone who enjoys creative worlds and lighthearted fun. You guys made it through those 2 horrible puns? Seriously? I must have left you in stitches. Right, well, for those of you who haven't already clicked off the video, I have a question for you. This time it's a bit different. What would you guys like to see on this channel? First impression videos or 1-minute reviews? Click on the annotation or leave a comment down below with your answer. Once you're done doing that, you should consider subscribing. I try to upload quality content on my channel. Granted, I suck at doing it consistently, but at least you can look forward to that occasional upload. Right? And if you enjoyed this video, you should drop a like. It helps me realize that I should do this more often. Trust me, I'm working on stuff. I'm just slow.